And just to confirm, I'm recording this so we can save it for anyone else who hasn't seen the things we're about to talk about. But yeah, so to start off with, I'll be giving a quick update on where we are with MindLamp 2. So right now we have finished the approval process for the Google App Store or the Google Play Store. So our app is now final and public on Android devices. I know it's a big achievement. However, Apple is still things are pending over there, and we're trying to resolve a few issues in the App Store review process. So we're not yet fully final and public with the iOS version, but we'll make sure to keep everyone posted for when things are final and live. So things are probably going to take maybe another 2 weeks before iOS, the iOS version of the app is public. And in the meantime, we just wanted to go through a few of the things that you're going to see in the next coming months with what MindLamp 2 will look like, some of the new features, and so on. But to start us off, before we get there, I just want to mention, for those of you who haven't used it yet, we have a fantastic community forum that I just want to paste a link to in the chat here. And I just want to give a shout out to a few of the people that I've seen on this forum. I think some of us are here. And I just wanted to give Ryan a little bit of time to talk about one of the new features that we've just sort of implemented and announced. So Ryan, you can take it from here.
Sure, thanks Aditya. So yeah, for anyone who's on the community website or the consortium website, I posted an update, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where we've created a library for all of, or not all, but a few sort of common surveys that we like to use in our studies, and we've found that other researchers like to use in their studies as well. Anyway, we've created those surveys and posted them into this library so that you can you could just import them directly into your LAMP project without having to create them once again, or to duplicate them. So there's only 4 in there right now. There's PHQ-9, GAD-7, PSKI, and warning signal scale. And so it's kind of limited at this point, but I think sort of the nice thing of doing this is that if all of us can sort of work together to add to this library, if anyone has any suggestions for surveys that they think are commonly used or that they see are commonly used in their own sort of research practice and in others' practice, to be able to, if we can, collectively create those and then upload those to the library for others to use. I think that would save, that would just save a lot of time in terms of having to re-implement these things, but also it'd be a nice way to sort of maybe move towards standardizing some instruments to be used across different studies. So, so if any of you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to us, or ideally to just post on the consortium website so that everyone could see. So yeah.
All right. And just so everyone is aware, you can access our documentation as well at the link I'm about to paste in the chat, which is docs.lamp.digital. So for any other questions regarding, any issues with LAMP or any questions, features, maybe you have other survey ideas that you want to figure out if do they exist or do they not exist yet, you can always check the documentation. And if that doesn't help, you can always make a post in the community forum. And so I see that IV11 has just mentioned that they use the PCL5 widely at LA County. And so one of the things that would be really helpful is we can actually look at the PCL5 and try and adapt it to LAMP well. And maybe over time, when other researchers or other clinicians get on board with LAMP and they want to use a standardized tool that others are using to sort of look at, across the country, what are sort of the results that we're getting using LAMP. This kind of a survey instrument library makes it super easy. So once again, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, I just wanted to add real quick to that. The other thing, like for example, PSKI, a lot of the wording of that particular survey, it assumes that you're sort of giving this to a patient or a participant on like a month-by-month basis. So the nice thing about sort of the LAMP platform as well is that you can import these surveys and then customize them however you want. So you could take that PSKI survey, and if you want to, deploy it on like a day-to-day basis, you go change some of the wording to reflect that, so that you could, use that same survey on a moment by moment basis. So again, we could always adapt these as well.
Yeah, on the library, I think it would be really neat if there was some field to indicate kind of the temporal nature that the survey is assessing, right? So like the PHQ-9 is obviously, it's like a daily version of it, whereas it's normally the 2-week version. It'd be cool if in the library it would tag stuff based off of that modality.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
I think maybe Ryan and we can talk about this and add that. Actually, that seems super helpful. And also, if any of you have any suggestions for surveys or instruments that maybe you use in person or have already been using with LAMP, and you'd like us to add this to the library, just go ahead and reach out to us or make a community forum post. And we'd love to make sure that the library grows and flourishes very quickly so others can have an easy time with it.
Would it be also possible, or another idea would be to have some type of comment thread for each item in the library? Like I noticed like the PHQ-9, there's like a typo in the name. It would be cool if I could just like comment on that page. Like, hey, there's a typo here, or I think the Pittsburgh Sleep one also had a few typos. It would be cool to just have a direct community access point to those types of things. Just a thought.
That's another great idea. I think, Ryan, we should probably think about some of this. And at some point, I also wonder, is this something that we could build into LAMP natively too? I think this is a feature a lot of people are going to be excited about, just judging from the reaction I'm already hearing and seeing here. So I'm glad to hear that everyone's kind of excited about this. Now, the next thing that I wanted to show everyone actually is something that's even bigger and even better. It is the new face of MindLamp 2. A lot of what you have all been looking at has been sort of a rudimentary in-between beta version. Some of you have worked with MindLamp 1, and that was designed back in 2017. And that interface may not be the greatest. There were some clunkiness issues with it, and it's gone through some design changes in its time. But we recognized that with MindLamp 2, we wanted to do something bigger and better and make it very intuitive for participants, patients, clinicians, researchers. Anyone should be able to just look at this and know exactly how easy it is to work with this tool. So I'm about to share with you what's to come. Let me just pull this up. And so can everyone see the very large MindLamp that we're looking at here? Some of these things are going to change a little bit here and there. And if anyone has any feedback or ideas, please do just reach out to us. Maybe make a community forum post or send us an email, or even in the chat right now, go ahead and make a comment, and we'll definitely get that to our designer, and we'll be iteratively looking to make this a better experience. But to start off with, this is our new login screen, and not the fun part. The fun part's coming up. This is what we're introducing as a new idea to MindLamp called the feed. Now, a lot of people have been adding schedules and notifications and surveys, and then it can be very hard for patients as well as just anyone in general. I have a problem with this. And what I do is when I get 6 notifications in the morning for take a survey, do a cognitive test, I swipe it away. And what happens when you swipe it away, maybe at 6 in the morning, it's not the right time to do it. I do want to get back to it, but now I've lost it. And I'm not going to feel the need to go back into LAMP. So we've decided to sort of restructure the way that people think about what you do in LAMP, starting with this feed. And you'll notice that we're still keeping our learn, assess, manage, prevent tabs at the bottom. They're there, they're familiar, and they'll still have the same information and content as before. But now for anything that has notifications or that has sort of a task associated with it, you will see it here in the feed. As we unveil new things such as the medication tracker module that we're currently working on, if you put in that you have to take a medication in the morning every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that'll also show up in your feed, like right over here. And I think this is just going to be such a great new way for people to experience LAMP. And this is really making me personally want to get this out the door, because I use LAMP all the time. I love tracking, my life, my habits and stuff with LAMP. And this would be so awesome for me. And I know a lot of other people may feel the same way. But to continue and not get stuck on this one feature, and here is, actually, I'm going to skip to this page. Here's what the new Learn tab looks like. You'll see the same themes across the entire app, but sort of learn is more about content that teaches people about, you know, what they may have to do to feel better, mood tips, social tips, sleep tips, resources, suggested readings, things like that. So we're adding a lot of new tools and resources for everyone to be able to manage their own health. And in the case of, say, a research study or a clinic, you'd be able to customize what goes here. So this is obviously, this is mocked up from the perspective of our studies, where in our studies, we're delivering these tips already. But say instead of mood tips, if you're running a study where you want to enable people with Parkinson's disease to learn more about how they can understand their illness and to maybe take steps to get better, you can maybe deliver Parkinson's tips and maybe 6 or 7 tips, sort of set them in there in the admin console. And then when the person actually loads up the app, when they look at the learn tip, you know, for Parkinson's tips, they'll get what is most relevant to them. You can even set it to be randomized. They'll get a tip at different times of the day. They'll get a tip before or after taking a survey. And here's what it kind of looks like, mocking it up again for the context of sleep tips. If you add, say, 5 tips here, and when you actually click on a tip, it's really simple and really clean. I think this is such a great way to deliver content and actually help people understand what it is they need to be learning in terms of from a clinical perspective, but also from a research perspective, allowing people to just feel better and get better. And there's more to come on this, and I'm not going to be able to share everything just yet, but I'm sharing what we've got mocked up so far. Now onto the next screen. That's not a screen. This is our assess tab. And this is where you'll notice right now we've put all the cognitive assessments and all the surveys in MindLamp 1. This is where they all live. But we're starting to restructure that and rethink what it looks like to make it cleaner and simpler. And this tab theme is green. And obviously you'll all appreciate that you can still maintain custom surveys. You can put in whatever surveys you want. You can use a survey from the instrument library that Ryan's created, and we can actually sort of collaborate on this. This is no longer just creating one survey and someone else has the same exact survey, but there's 2 different versions. What do I do? One of the amazing things that we've also been working on in the back end is really harmonizing the data. So say 2 researchers from across the globe want to work together using the same surveys and the same kind of metadata. They can now actually do that. They can actually work on this data together, one piece of code, one programming pipeline that works on all the data. So we've been making some backend changes to reflect our new and improved interface as well. And if anyone has any questions, please hop in or send a chat message. I'll keep that open real quick just so we can take a look. There we go. All right. Any questions so far? Moving forward? All right. So now the next page is sort of when you start taking a survey, you'll notice we have a version of this right now in MindLamp 1 where it gives you a few instructions. It tells you this is how you do it. In the current version right now, it's sort of telling you this is a survey. This is how you take a survey. We're now adding the option to customize what is important about that survey that is an instruction. For example, for a sleep and social survey, we've added this custom text. The following survey will assess your sleep and social behavior for each of the statements. Rate which is true for you. And this is actually a modified PSQI, I believe, that we're actually using. But real quick, I just received a question. So from Huijun Lee, any passive tracking function? Yes, I'm going to get to that very soon, actually. But we've added a lot of new features in terms of passive data. And we're going to see what that looks like in the UI first. And then we're going to see sort of how we can start working with that as well. But that's a very good question, and we'll get to that in a moment. Now, the survey taking interface, the survey instrument interface is much cleaner and much simpler. I'm going to go through a few of these very quickly. It's so much cleaner, and it's easy to sort of understand the flow of the questions, and it's very, simplistic. I like it personally. If anyone has any questions on what types of inputs are allowed, for example, here we have a clock input. I think the best way to say it is anything that you can support through Google Forms, we support here. We have a few specific types, like the Likert response, which is a multi-point response set that's already sort of predetermined. And so we have a few customizable options there as well. But then we're also now adding a slider function, or a slider input rather. And you can sort of drag over here and change what that response for the slider number is, which is, I think, a fantastic addition, because sometimes you're not really, you're not, you know, here or there, you're sort of in between, and being able to express that is very helpful. And the best part is we had a feature called streaks in MindLamp 1, but this is the new and improved version. It works across all of the things you do in LAMP. And I think we're really excited to share more about how this works. It sort of incentivizes people to come back and try more, do more, and follow sort of a notification schedule that you set for them. So streaks are something where you get sort of a little medal. We haven't really decided what happens once you get a medal, but that's something you'll also see in the feed if you keep it up after, say, 14 days. A question from Alex Elliott. Can you add branching to questions on the forums? In MindLamp 1, you were not able to do that. In MindLamp 2, we're working on that feature right now. I don't have an estimated, you know, time of when that will be done, but that's something that's on our radar for getting done for MindLamp 2. And again, a lot of this stuff is work in progress. So we're definitely taking new feature requests and additions and making sure everything gets sent to our designer as well as our engineers. And we want to make it a collaborative process to build MindLamp 2 into a fantastic new platform. But continuing, this is the new manage page, and you'll notice here's the first sort of a help tip that when people sort of approach LAMP for the first time, you may not, you know, intuitively understand what does it mean, what's in the manage section. So now we're offering a helpful little tip to help people orient themselves, and the icons in this section have been redesigned. You'll notice, for example, we've added a breathing exercise, sort of a meditation thing. We've added journaling and a hope box where you can sort of collect tips and things like images that you really like, maybe a motivational quote. You can collect them there. We don't have any mock-ups just yet to share about this, but we're going to get there very soon. And at the bottom right here, that's sort of covered by this tip, is a medication tracker. And I'm so happy to say that a lot of these things will be very functional very soon. And onto the next page is sort of what the breathing exercise looks like. This is my favorite thing that we have in MindLamp 2 right now, and it just looks so beautiful. There's going to be the ability to add your own custom audio and text cues to go with it, kind of like a transcription for, say, a podcast or for a YouTube video. You'll sort of see these little text items come up. And in this case, it says, get yourself comfortable. When you're ready, tap the start button. And this lotus, actually, this is a static image, so I can't show you how beautiful this is just yet, but it folds and unfolds at the same rate that you set for your breathing exercise. It's so relaxing. I'm a huge fan of this. Any questions so far? Obviously, anything goes. Maybe you'd like to change the color of the lotus. That's also something that if you'd like that feature, like we can obviously talk about this and see where that goes. But in general, any other feature requests, we're glad to take them right now. Any questions so far? All right, I think then we'll keep going. Now, at the very end of both the tips as well as the breathing exercise, you'll get this very gentle, you know, nicely done, sort of telling you that, hey, you did a good job, whatever it may have been. And what's even better is now you can get this, was this helpful today? Yes, no feedback. So it's actually going to be that if you enable this for your study or for your clinic, you can actually get feedback on, did this intervention help someone? When you set this to be deployed at a certain time, maybe they had a very bad anxiety score, maybe they were very anxious, and you set this breathing exercise to be the response to a poor anxiety score. Was that helpful? There's some feedback that you can actually use to better improve this system now, and better improve your quality of care and the treatment plan. And there's so much more that's coming like this. So any other feature requests, like I said, glad to hear them right now. But now we get to sort of the meat of things metaphorically here. And this is the prevent page where it's been completely overhauled. Definitely one of the most beautiful things about LAMP is not just the ability to collect data, but to view data, understand data, open conversations about that data. And I think we have really, we're working to take this to the next level here. And now we've sort of broken these sections out. So activity data is what you do, say, for surveys or for cognitive tests. These are the things that you go into LAMP and you tap on the screen and you get some data out of it. But we've also broken the sensors data out into a separate section where now you can actually get, say, step count down over here. You can get this little miniature graph that shows you a daily step count. You can actually make that an hourly step count if you'd like. So now you sort of get this heads up glance from the patient perspective. And so also if you're a researcher or clinician and you just want a quick at a glance view, you'll also see this kind of screen. And let's say I want to customize what I see here. It's not limited to seeing all or nothing. If you click on this plus button right over here, you'll actually get this little drop down or this modal dialog here, and you can actually select what you want to see. So you're not sort of forced to see everything or nothing. You can actually customize your experience. And I imagine that for me, the way that I use apps like Fitbit or Lamp in general, I customize my dashboard for who I am. I care a lot about my mood, my step count, things like that. Maybe I want to track water and nutrition. So that can be custom for me. And even though I'm part of the same study as, say, Ryan, maybe Ryan has a different focus and maybe he wants to look at something else. And it can really be customized for the individual, even though we're trying to, normalize things across an entire study. And once you click in to the nice button that has sort of a heads up dialogue here, this is what you kind of get. We're working on maybe trying to interpret these graphs and turn them into sort of sentences that make sense. This is a very touchy area that we're not fully certain about just yet. So this is a feature that we're working on, just as a full disclaimer. But right now, say you open up the mood survey, you'll see something that says your mood is fluctuating because that's what the data shows here. And it'll sort of interpret this for you. Varying circumstances will cause your mood to change over time. That's human. But erratic spikes and dips in mood can be signs of a more serious problem. And we're still working on this feature, but we plan to make this customizable. So to some degree, maybe you want to change that. Maybe for your survey, you have different markers and points that you want to alert, say, a clinician or a researcher to, or maybe you just want to explain this to a patient better. And at the bottom of the graph, you'll also see all the recent scores, when these things were taken, the actual data, and of course, when you tap on it, you'll see every single answer choice breakdown. So we're not hiding anything, we're not removing any data, it's all there, but we're trying to make it so it's easily understood and more compact. And the administrator view, sort of from the researcher and clinician perspective, things are going to be more holistic. We're building out an entire data studio. So that's not even ready to show you yet, but we're really taking it to the next level. And you're going to be able to do customizable charts, dragging and dropping different data sources. You won't have to know a single line of code. You won't have to program anything. You can really build anything you want. You can build almost any graph in the data studio. And we're really excited about that feature, but we can't share it just yet. Any questions on this stuff so far?
Do you guys collect data on what people view? Like when people view their own data, does that get recorded in the data itself?
I'm very excited to share that we are starting to do that now for MindLamp 2. The MindLamp 1, we didn't have that. We only tracked, say, when someone logged in, but now we're trying to pull together all these different analytics we can pull. And of course, this is all dependent on your clinic or your research study. Maybe, say, one clinic doesn't really want to know that kind of information. You can just turn it off. But I'm so glad to say that it's going to be an option very soon. And we also track, by the way, very cool, exactly when a notification was delivered, how long it took for the person to tap on the notification or swipe it away, and what did they do after tapping on it. So we're really getting into this level of being able to measure engagement on a meta level. So there's so many cool advancements there, and we can have a solid discussion about this too. And I'm also very keen on hearing, what else do we want to track? How do we want to improve engagement with LAMP? How do we want to really build a tool, a platform that everyone wants to keep using? So that's definitely one of the biggest goals. But continuing, one of my second favorite features, because I've already said I have a favorite feature, which is the breathing exercise, but I love the idea of conversations because some of the clinics that we work with that are using LAMP, they are starting to get ready and trying to understand how they can involve conversations in the LAMP platform. Because what's amazing is you can highlight a piece of data and you can tap on it, annotate it, and say, hey, this looks interesting. Why does my mood line up with my step count? Do I feel better when I go for walks? And that is a question you can open with a clinician. And we have this great feature called the Care Flower, the Care Team right now. And in the beta version of MindLamp 2, we're trying to expand that and make it sort of an integral feature of LAMP. And again, everything can be turned on and off. If you don't want to support this as part of your research study, because again, I understand that there are research considerations and our team is trying to make sure that everyone can use this platform. If you can't have a conversation through LAMP, that's fine. You can still disable this. But we know that from the clinics that we've talked to, having a conversation about data is really one of the biggest things. And being able to facilitate that better in LAMP is going to be a big deal. So we're really working hard at this new redesign. And you can see that it's not limited to just one person. You can have multiple people in your care team. You can have your mom, your trusted peers. Maybe I have a friend that I really trust with my mental health information. Maybe I have my pharmacist on board. Again, maybe my pharmacist doesn't want to be on board, but just an idea. And it's really customizable to whatever you want this to be. And finally, this is what it looks like for talking through this platform. And again, the text here is all mocked up. So you're not necessarily going to be creating appointments in LAMP, but it's more about having discussions around data. So asking questions, why do I feel this way when I don't walk a lot? What do you think I can do to feel better? And then what's really cool is we're trying to tie things in LAMP together. So maybe if a participant or a patient asks, well, I just don't know. My mood isn't getting better. I don't know what to do. You can actually link them within the app to the mood tip that you created earlier. It's a circle where everything sort of connects to each other in LAMP. Any questions so far on the way that this whole thing works? Any feature requests, comments, feedback? We really want to make this an iterative design process where we involve everyone in the community, everyone that may be ever going to use the app. And obviously, we're not sort of committed to one thing, but we love for everyone to pitch in and help us build this, because this is the community for MyLab after all.
I just want to say, I think you've got your Steve Jobs presentation skills down. I felt like I was at WWDC.
Thank you.
I was just waiting for the one more feature, though.
Oh, this was supposed to be the one more thing, but I mean, it's so cliche saying, but one more thing.
Yeah, is this communication real time, or is it delayed depending on the availability of the responder?
That's a very good question. In fact, it can be both. And the reason why we say that is because for our research studies, we're not allowed to technically have a real-time communication according to whatever we've done with the IRB. But the clinics that we work with need that. And the clinicians on their side aren't going to be checking this 24/7. It's not going to be like you get a notification on your phone with a text message. So you can change it to adapt for your needs. It can be both, is really the best answer I can give you. One of the other fantastic things about this is on the back end, we're working on sort of building out a better data model, working with EHRs, fire support, things like that. These conversations, this data, we're working on so many new ways of integrating that into whatever healthcare systems you have right now, whatever research platforms you have right now. Say, for example, if you've already got REDCap studies and you want to import that data to work with it in a unified LAMP platform, we're working on ways to build that. In fact, Ryan's the one that actually built the REDCap importing code. And it's not yet a part of LAMP 2, but it's going to be there. And for example, if you want to add reports, you want to generate a report and then save it to your EHR. We're working on automated ways of creating a PDF report of every single patient in your clinic. And we've already got the PDF generation part down, but it's not yet automated. And these are some of a few of the features that are coming soon.
So that's a really good point. One of the things that physicians hate doing is using two data access points for documentation, right? Like they don't want to log into their EHR and something else. And I'm sure it's impossible to get this imported directly into EHR, or at least that would be an incredibly long process since all EHRs are so different. But one of the things that I have seen in some places is where you get a PDF is fine, but it's kind of a bitch to import a PDF into EHR. But if there's like just a small summary of like text that you can copy and paste into the EHR really fast, that would be something that I think some clinicians would use, like, your average PHQ-9 score since last visit, or, just a small table of the PHQ-9 scores that could very easily be copied and pasted into any kind of text document.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And you bring up another good point about the PDF generation we have right now is sort of like, it prints everything out and it gives you all the details, every single data point. It can be quite unwieldy. So that is a good point. And I'll add that to our feature list, and we'll actually get back to you and track that on the consortium forums. Any other questions, comments, things we want to discuss about this new design? There's so many wonderful features here, but again, I have to say my favorite is this beautiful unfolding lotus for the breathing exercise. Was there anything you guys like to see? What was your favorite screen? That's also something fantastic. And actually, Alex Elliott just asked a question. Does LAMP meet 508 color compliance? If not, can you change the colors of the UI to be 5098 compliant? I'm not familiar with the color compliance specification you're talking about, but I believe that our designer would be familiar with this. He has a lot of experience working on healthcare products, and I believe again, I will confirm this from him first. I believe he has taken that into account. So let me actually ask that question of him. And Alex, I'll go ahead and I suppose I already have your email, so I can respond to you directly when I do get a response. But if I can get something back very quickly, that would be great. Any other questions?
I was wondering about the web app versus the mobile app and how those are going to be aligned in the future. Like, is the idea that they would be nearly identical, or are you really just kind of ditching the web app and moving towards this beautiful, phone app? What are your guys' thoughts or vision there?
From the get-go with MindLamp 2, it's been around sort of a unified interface, but obviously there's a lot of there's different ways you interact with the web browser versus with the smartphone. And right now with this design, I know I've shown you a lot of touch-first elements, but for example, when you're looking at this screen on a desktop view, say you're a participant or a patient, you want to do something on your computer instead of your phone, which may have run out of battery. This this bottom navigation bar here with learn, assess, manage, prevent, it actually rotates to the side and things sort of zoom out a little bit to give you more of a desktop experience. It's an adaptive, responsive design where things look the same, but it structures itself differently to give you a more desktop feel. But when it comes to dedicated tools like the Data Studio versus the prevent page that we have here, which we sort of see as more like a preview of your data, it's kind of difficult to really pull things together, build new charts, things that are, never before seen, like heat maps, for example. I mean, those are before seen, but the ones in LAMP have never before been seen. That Data Studio feature is probably going to remain a desktop exclusive feature just because you're going to need more screen real estate. And you have to sort of open LAMP with that intention of really going into the data. And Michelle Chen says, how many different versions are there for the same cognitive tests? Cognitive tests can be very prone to practice effects if given repeatedly, especially within a short period of time, especially daily. So in MindLamp 1, a few of the cognitive tests, not all of them, had custom versions. So we had up to 15 versions, I believe, for our trail making test. And what was really helpful about that was you can schedule version 3 and then version 10 back to back and have that notification be sent out to your participants. In this new version for MindLamp 2, we're not going to limit it to just a version number. We're really bringing customizability to you. Instead of saying version 8, what does that really mean? You can set exactly the number of circles. Do you want it to be circles to squares? Do you want A's to ones or ones to A's? What symbols? Customize everything. So you're going to have that option. I know that for some people, that's exactly what they want. For other people, that may be too much. So we're going to have presets as well. So a good mix where you can sort of go completely custom and change it, and it's a completely unique thing. But also, maybe you just want beginner, advanced, expert, and call that a day. So we'll have those options for you. And I hope that answers your question. The version system that we have in MindLamp 1 will not be directly ported over. We will have more options for settings, for example.
Do you all have any information on the cognitive tasks that are going to be available for MindLamp 2 right now? Is it really the same apps, the same as in MindLamp 1, kind of converted over to MindLamp 2 with these new features, or is it going to be a different library of things?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We are planning to make sure that every single cognitive test that we had in MindLamp 1 does make its way over to MindLamp 2. And then on top of that, we're adding 2 or 3 new ones just for now. We don't have any mock-ups that we can share just yet. For next month's webinar, I will be very happy to share with you that, maybe 30 or 40 mock-ups of all these new cognitive tests and so on. But one of them, like for example, we're calling it, the temporary name is Pop the Bubbles, and another one is called Balloon Risk. So balloon betting, actually, I think. But it was more about sort of assessing different domains of cognition. We noticed that we were missing out on a few of those domains. We focused a lot on a few things, say, memory, one facet of memory, but not another facet. So we're working on trying to make a more holistic set of activities. And in general, I think we're trying to gamify things a little bit too, but that's not to say that you won't have an ungamified version. To give you an example, the trails making test, where you sort of drag a finger from one circle to another, that's the traditional way because it matches on an A4 sheet of paper how you draw with a pencil, a line between them. We also have Jules, which is our gamified version that sort of makes people think of Bejeweled. And we noticed that people actually like playing that version more. But it's hard when you're doing a research study to say that one is equal to the other. So we're offering both, and you can really customize both and see what you want to go with. We've actually had great success with Jules, and I believe Cecilia works on the team that actually helped us design the Jules activity. And we owe a lot to that because it's been, honestly, when I talk to the patients that use our app, the first thing is, oh, you mean that, when I ask them, do you know what LAMP is? Their response is always, oh, you mean that app with the Jules game? And that just goes to show that's how much they love it. So again, thank you, Cecilia and your team. But yeah, that's our long-term goal. And obviously, one of the things that we really like about the LAMP platform is how customizable it is. All you have to know to build your own activity like this is a little bit of HTML. If it's an HTML web page, it will work. And all you have to do is define, here's the data, here are the settings, and just give us the HTML, upload it, and that's it. And in fact, that's the way we've developed all these things. We're not using any special magic, so to speak. Everything is an HTML page. In fact, you can download these HTML documents and run them in your web browser. The data's not going to get saved anywhere, but you can actually play these in your browser. You can play these activities independently. Very customizable, and we're slowly expanding to offer new support for things. As another example of how powerful this is, even if it's just HTML, you can create, there's a game engine called the Unity. You can do complete 3D games and build that in as part of LAMP. So it's a very flexible, customizable thing. You can actually use the accelerometer API and say for Parkinson's patients, have them hold the phone out as part of this activity and sort of monitor the tremor. And you can actually get a very good indicator of what the tremor looks like or feels like for an individual just using HTML. And it's a custom activity built into the LAMP platform. All of the data is harmonized along with everything else, including surveys, cognitive tests, Jules. Everything comes together in the data studio. Any questions, any feedback, things like that?
So what's the timeline of releasing LAMP 2?
That's the best question. Some parts of it are already available. This redesign will take maybe another 3 to 4 weeks, and some parts of it will go live before other parts. The App Store, as I mentioned in the very beginning, Google has already approved our app, and they're more than happy to approve it as is. Apple has requested a few times for us to modify different aspects of the app, and we're still going back and forth in the review process. But we hope to have it out on the App Store hopefully within a week or two. And note that that's still a beta. Once the interface, once these new cognitive tests, everything is sort of packed in there, then we will be able to say this is the final release of MyLAMP 2. And I'm really hoping for end of July, mid-August is the timeline for that. But you can actually use MyLAMP 2 as is. One of the biggest things that you won't be getting right now are cognitive tests. Because we're still in the process of porting them, we don't want to sort of release, half complete, half broken cognitive tests, which is really critical for a lot of your research studies. We're holding off until everything is finalized and bug proof. So for now, you can actually use MyLAMP 2 and MyLAMP 1 side by side. So every piece of data from MyLAMP 1 also is seamlessly imported into MyLAMP 2. Everything is synchronized. You don't have to worry about, oh, I'm using MyLAMP 1 over here and using MyLAMP 2 over there. It's all one big platform.
Can you also talk about the passive tracking? Is this a good time?
Yeah, of course. I can go into a bit more detail there. It's hard because there's not much to show about that, but we do have support right now for screen on and off, I guess, events. We don't really have data on what apps are used from the applications or like from the operating system perspective. We're working with Apple on getting that information. So we hope to have good news about that soon. We have a raw accelerometer, GPS, gyroscope, other device motion features such as magnetometer and linear accelerometers. Very much every single sensor we can actually find on the smartphone devices themselves, we try and offer as part of the LAMP platform. We have ambient light. We're working on building an ambient sound monitoring as well. So for example, it'll sample every second what is the audio level of the environment that you're in. And on top of having all of these smartphone sensors available, all of these same sensors are going to be available for wearable devices as well. And that's the next big thing that MindLamp 2 offers that MindLamp 1 doesn't offer. HealthKit and Google Fit are so helpful for a lot of things, but they are at the end of the day just an aggregate. You only get sort of, you took 5 steps today, or you took 500,000 steps today. You don't really get when was a step taken. You don't get the millisecond level precision of when a step was taken. You don't really know what was the quality of sleep. You just know that, oh, maybe between 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. is when they went to sleep and woke up. We're working to get all of those things in more granular detail from wearable devices by offering the same exact sensors on wearables. And you won't have to do anything. All you have to do is sign up a participant or a patient the same way as usual, and it just works. That is sort of the Steve Jobsian thing here, Andrew. It just works.
So is this the passive tracking also coming out at the same time as the cognitive tests?
Yes, the passive tracking actually is already implemented. The wearable device tracking is sort of implemented. We're working on fine tuning that because with wearable devices, there's a lot more battery associated constraints we have to work around. But with the public beta of MindLamp 2, you can already start tracking sensor data. In fact, we already have 2 studies internally that we've been using to beta test the beta. And we can confirm that we're getting very good quality data as best as you can get from a smartphone study. And we've compared it against other popular platforms that are used out there. And we work off of the AWARE framework. Some of you may know about this framework. We've actually hand-tuned a lot of the code that goes into this to get us better performance, better battery, more higher quality data, and sometimes even data that AWARE doesn't have. So we're also working again with Apple to get access to the screen time feature, or sort of, I forget what they call it, but when they sort of send you a weekly report of you spent 3 hours on YouTube, maybe you shouldn't do that, but that access, that data.
I was wondering a little bit about just analytics for some of this passive data. You mentioned the data studio. I also wonder, just like, I imagine there's no real norm yet on how to analyze some of this types of data because it is so new. And one of the goals of the consortium is hopefully that people are doing it in a standardized way. I'm wondering if y'all have a vision or kind of thoughts on what the way to kind of communicate how people are doing it. Is it going to be like a repository of scripts that, you know, people have developed? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so one of the many features of the LAMP platform is, again, automated data harmonization. We have a very powerful framework called the automations framework. We're not yet ready to reveal a lot of those things back there just yet. But what that means to people using this is, as long as you use the JavaScript, Python, or R programming languages, the code that you write will actually be, you can upload this code to LAMP and have it run these things for you and give you sort of a daily download almost of whatever it is you're looking at.
Right.
And this code is reusable for any study that uses the same set of activities and the same set of sensor data.
Yeah. So are you envisioning that part of the LAMP consortium would be a place where people could post their code to share with other people?
Exactly. And one of the most amazing things about this is because typically programming is a very collaborative experience. You know, if you go to sort of the professional developer world, it's all open source, very much like open access for publications are. And with that kind of, we want to build a community like that, where everyone is willing to share that, hey, we're using activities A, B, and C, and we're collecting sensor data from GPS and accelerometer. Here's our code. We found something cool. What do you guys think? Can you reproduce this in China, in Nepal, in Boston, in Canada? That's a kind of world that we imagine, where everyone's just able to reproduce these things so effectively. And that's also why some of the things we were working on, say the survey instrument library, it just makes it so easy to be able to export and import these things. And you know, I imagine that one day, if you use the LAMP platform and you publish a paper, maybe you attach it as a supplementary file, your code, your activities, your sensors, the configuration, and someone else can just download it and run it on their set of patients.
So at this point, when MyLAMP 2 is released, so along with the cognitive games in July, so is this becoming commercialized, or as research purpose, can we still use it for free?
That's also a very good question. As of now, it is all still free. We highly recommend, based on your organizational needs, because this data is HIPAA secure, and especially that really only applies to America, but depending on the country's policies that you'd like to follow, you may have to deploy the LAMP backend yourself. And in that case, we're more than happy to work with your organization on figuring out what the costs are going to be like, where to do this, how to do this effectively, and so on. In fact, you can actually notice in the LAMP community forums, there is actually 2 or 3 other groups trying to do this. And Monash University in Australia, for example, have been working with us now for the past few months and helping us really bring this, this system and this platform to something where anyone can just one-click deploy their own version of it. So they're self-hosting. And by that, I mean that their data is all maintained in Australia. We have no part in it. And they assume all of the costs associated with hosting their own data, server costs, database costs, and so on. But if you're using our public access server, as I'm sure many of you already are, that will remain free as of right now. Any other final closing questions, comments? I've been hearing a lot of fantastic questions, actually, that I'm glad to finally answer sort of as part of this webinar. So please keep those coming.
Thanks, Aditya, for giving that presentation. I think it was really informative, and hopefully we'll all continue the conversation on the consortium website.
All right. And
yeah, thanks a lot. It's very helpful.
Yeah,
thank you for the questions.
This was really exciting, more exciting than WWDC.
I'm glad to hear it. Alex Elliott asks, are these Zooms monthly? Yes, they are every month. I believe if you go to our website and click on consortium, you'll see the Zoom information or the calendar invite that you can add to your calendar to keep track of this. And every month we will have so many new fantastic things to share with you. And thank you, Alex, also for the good questions. I actually just got back a reply from our designer. He says he's aiming for AA contrast ratio standards. I don't know specifically what that means in terms of 5098 compliance, but AA contrast ratio standards. That's the answer I can give you.
I'm sorry, another quick question. Are you still working with Zico, or are you working with another developer now?
We're still working with Zico. We are branching out and involving other designers and developers as well, because the scope of this project is massive now.
Mm-hmm.
So Zico is still very much involved. They are at the core of our engineering right now. But also, I just want to put out a little plug. If anyone else has some programming or development experience and wants to get involved, please, by all means, it is very helpful, but also it's great when you are able to put in a part of your experience to know that this is what your patients, this is what your participants are going to be using. And so that's really how I got involved with this project. But anyone is welcome. And yes, we are still working with Zika. And with that, I believe we've now hit the 1 hour mark. So if there are no other questions, it's been a pleasure, and I'm glad to have shared so many cool things. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
You too. Have a good one.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.